name is Miss Alex White.
I'm Francis White,
and we are White Mystery. Born and raised on the north side of Chicago.
In this house.
In this house.
That we are currently in. I used to live in this room.
No, it's our practice room. The first song that really made an impact on me as a fourth grader who had been listening to tape cassette compilations of the oldies already from the dollar store. I love the Beach Boys and the Everly Brothers and all of those golden oldies, but the song that really made the impact on me was Baba O'Riley by The Who, from Who's Next. So the year was probably 1994. I was, maybe 9 years old, and hearing that song inspired me to play guitar. So it was not long after that that I started playing a Rickenbacker.
Smells Like Teen Spirit was like unavoidable when I was in grade school, and that was just like a worm of a song that just made its way in my head when I was like in fourth grade, pretty young, sort of trying to discover music. And that was, I didn't like the rest of the album, just Smells Like Teen Spirit.
That's an interesting question, like who was the first kind of musician out there that made it seem possible to be in a rock band? There's a lot of bands that come to mind. You know, the Ramones, of course, I just love the Ramones. Being a junior high kind of kid, I was like, oh, this is great, power chords, that's all you need. Really broke it down, but I feel like listening to Sonic Youth and Kim Gordon and that kind of like noisier side of rock music kind of communicated to me that I could be a guitarist who's still trying to get good, but sort of use noise as a way to actually create a band. So definitely the Ramones and Kim Gordon from Sonic Youth were big influences on me.
I definitely drew some inspiration from Insane Clown Posse and Kiss, as far as not necessarily having an amazing technical, mechanical ability, but like just slapping something on yourself. And you know, the Alice Cooper transformation also. It's like, well, if they could do it, I could put something together and just make it a big spectacle, maybe.
The first instrument that I started playing, and actually Francis and I took lessons together, was piano. Being little tiny kids, playing piano lessons, very rudimentary. You know, like we barely got past using two hands, but it was a really good exercise in what the notes are and looking at this visual display of chords and notes and keys. So that was really good. But when Danelectro first reissued moons ago, those little UB50 kind of telly looking guys, that was my first electric guitar, where my mom was like, okay, you want to play guitar? Like, let's sign you up for some classes and see how you like it. Might have been 12 years old, on the verge of 13, something like that-ish. Again, I wish I wrote it down because that was sort of a milestone, considering what I do now. Took classical lessons and just thought it was terrible. You know, it was like learning how to fret, Yankee Doodle Dandy, like, oh man, get me out of here. And I expressed that, look, I want to play electric guitar. I don't care if this is like the starter way of playing guitar, I want to play electric. Got hooked up with that Danelectro and started playing in bands immediately. And then when I was in high school, I took upright bass, the double bass. So I had already been a guitar player and then got even stronger from playing the upright.
Took lessons with a cool dude in a really dusty music store called The Music Store on Montrose or Irving.
Yeah.
Forget, in like Kedzie. And it was in this basement, and there was just like kind of crap everywhere, and it was really cluttered, but it was something like really homey and wizardly about it almost, like these really old dusty musician guys that were like hanging out. And I got some lessons from an amazing teacher named Mike August, who I always held in very high regard. And he taught me some rudiments and helped me like just form a couple beats and fills, and away I went after that.
When we were about 4 and 2 years old, we started jamming though. So we're brother and sister. I'm not sure if we actually established that we're siblings beyond, you know, talking about being raised in this house together, but we had a plastic saxophone and a little Fisher-Price piano, and learned very early on, like we're talking about noise and rudiments and that kind of thing. We discovered that we could just kind of bang away and create music from that. So there's pictures of us as like little kids, these like plastic instruments. We used to put quarters and coins inside of the piano and just shake it, like not even play per se, but just like percussive sound. And I think being brother and sister, you can kind of like experiment with music freely because you have so much shared time under the same roof. The way that White Mystery came together after years of jamming, he was in bands, I was in bands, I was touring Europe, going on tour with the Black Keys in the bands that I used to be in. He was still in high school, we'd come home, we'd jam, make some songs, and then kind of go our separate ways. You know, he had his band, the Nuke Mutes, I played in a band called Hot Machines, etc., etc. So we would always jam together.
Alex had an apartment in Logan Square, and I still lived here in this basement, in this room, going to college, and Alex graduated and had a day job. And then we started working together. She got me a job at Busy Beaver Button Factory, pressing buttons while she was in the office. And then one day she called me up because we both had cell phones at this time. She was like, Francis, we should start a band. I just found a White Mystery wrapper on the sidewalk. It said White Mystery Out of Control, the Airheads candy. I was like, okay, let's do it.
And we realized that we had started our MySpace on April 20th. So when we were like looking back a couple months forward, we're like, whoa, we started our band on 4/20. And ever since then, we've released a new album on April 20th, annually, without a miss, since our first album came out in 2010. And 2011, 2012, etc., up to present day, and now we're working on our album for 2017. In 2018, on April 20th, it'll be our 10-year anniversary. And what happens beyond that actually is a mystery even to us that we have to determine. We've accomplished all of the things that we've actually set out to do, including playing late night television and that kind of thing. We have all of these really strict rules about what it means to be in White Mystery, and a lot of those rules will actually dissolve and kind of make our lives more free after 2018. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, but personally I would love to play Australia. I've played Japan and the EU and North America extensively, but I'd really love to play Australia before the band concludes its first chapter or final chapter. It's hard to say what it's going to be. I think that one of the most important things that bands should know, taking the DIY approach to releasing their own albums and promotion and that kind of thing, are definitely some things that I learned over time. A is be yourself. You know, I think that people, what?
I'm sorry.
I'm serious. It's just a lot of people take on these kind of fake personas and you get outed eventually. So it's like, you know, you could be like, I'm like this on Twitter and I'm this kind of guy and this person should be like this, and then someone actually meets you and they realize that you're kind of like a sweetie or a pushover, and that dichotomy between your performance self and your actual self makes people doubt who you are and whether they actually like you in a long-term way. I think it's really good to stay positive. And what that means, it was actually advice from another band that they had given me and I took very seriously, which was don't air out your dirty laundry on the internet. Because there will be a time that it comes around and bites you in the Watusi. I think that it's good to like kind of focus on sort of positive language. So for instance, instead of saying, I can't wait, I'd rather say, I'm excited for, that kind of thing. I think people need to become better writers and work on their writing skills in order to, you know, like let the way that you market your band actually mirror what your band does well. Thirdly, take the money and run. Woo!